Hello, everyone. MTL Sports Podcast, episode 71. We got a good show for you. We're going to take a little break from NFL. Super Bowl's in about 2 weeks. Take a little break. So we're going to switch over to the NBA, show you our basketball knowledge or lack of. Who knows? Something for you to decide. But we're going to do some midseason recapping. Today, I think we're going to do the Eastern Conference. Just go over what we preview the conference and then what it is now, how things are looking before the trade deadline. I believe it's next week, like next Tuesday or something. So we'll go over that plus some rapid fire. So with all that, stay tuned. Mid-season recap of the NBA. We're gonna start in the Eastern Conference today. Just compare teams, how we thought they were gonna do when we did our preseason, little summarizing, and then how they are doing right now. So we're just gonna do by the standings. I guess that makes the most sense. Or you want to do division?
Oh, do it by the standings, my man. Because there's some of them at the bottom we don't even need to discuss.
100% agree. So let's start at the bottom because these teams are going to take literally like a minute or two. We'll just get some quick, almost rapid fire like thoughts. Zoom this thing on in. Detroit Pistons. I definitely had them like being at the bottom again because they just don't have any talent and they kind of had a backlog at the power forward and center position. They kind of got rid of that with the whole, Bagley trade. But yeah, the Pistons look bad, bro.
Yeah, I thought they were going to be kind of good this year. Not like really good. I just thought they were going to fight a little bit. They didn't even fight. Man, there's no fight. They're just bad. It is what you thought they were going to be kind of situation there. I thought Monty Williams might have brought some kind of energy to him.
Nah. They had 27 games they lost in a row, something like that. It was
I believe it was more than that. Was it not more than that?
It was pretty bad. Let's click and see if it will show. I don't know if we're not going to count all those L's in a row. It was definitely in the 20s. I don't think they didn't win a game in all of December, I think. So I mean, it was pretty bad, y'all. Next up, Wizards. They're second to last. I think we both had the Wizards being competitive, maybe vying for a play-in spot, but I mean, it's the complete opposite happened. I'm going to attribute most of that to just not the coaching because there was a coaching change recently. I don't think we covered that, but Unseld Jr. stepped into the front office and they hired the interim. I forgot the guy's name, but he's the interim head coach. Not much has changed except for they're on a 2-game win streak. They're going for the third as of, we're recording on Wednesday night, January 31st. They're playing the Clippers tonight. So they're trying to make it a 3-game win streak. First time in a year that they won 3 games in a row. How are we feeling about the Wiz?
We don't even talk about them. The Wizards are trash. We thought they might do something. We thought they might play around. They got pooled. You could say they got fooled, but they got pooled.
They got pooled.
I mean, moving on, you got the Hornets. The Hornets are in the same boat. I mean, you kind of thought the Hornets might do a little something. We're not saying we thought Hornets going to finish in the top 6 or anything. That's not what we're saying. We thought the Hornets might try to make some noise, make something out of nothing. No, the Hornets are just bad as well. I don't know what you want to. I don't even know what you want to say about the Hornets. Obviously, you got to do something about it. You can't win at home. You can't win on the road. You're basically 50-50. Not 50-50, but you're basically 5-5 in each. So you can't do better in either one. Conference record is awful. You can barely put. You're basically like the worst. You are the worst scoring team in the East. And half your team is injured prone, just completely always out. So I mean, team's just bad. I mean, the team is just straight up just horrible.
Yeah, they're not the best. LaMelo has been, injury prone. He's been out this season. Terry Rozier just got traded to Miami. So He was kind of trashing on the culture in a recent interview, talking about how they expected to lose there, but now that he's in Miami, they're actually playing for something. So that's very telling right there. Yeah, the new ownership, you thought you would infuse some new life, but it's the same old Hornets. Moving on, though, Raptors. This was a team last year that played in the play-in, and then we thought this year was the make or break year because Siakam's on the last year of his deal. Gary Trent is as well, and they lost Fred VanVleet to the Rockets. So this was the make or break year. Whether they wanted to go all in and try to trade for a star or frankly trade their stars away, which is what they did. Move OG to the Knicks, and then they moved Siakam to Indy. So clear that they're going through a rebuild.
Yeah, I mean, once you got a new coach in there, you kind of knew they were going to need to do some changing of sorts. And then, well, once they traded Siakam, you knew it was kind of over. I think the big question now is Gary Trent Jr. What are you going to do with him? If you think he's going to re-sign with you, then you probably keep him. Do you think he's going to leave you? You're probably looking to trade him right now. So those are the things to look out for the Raptors. And they want to build around the future with Scotty Barnes. They think they have something there with Scotty Barnes. So they just gave him a nice little small forward there with Bruce Brown and RJ Barrett. But outside of that, obviously Jakob Poeltl's not going to cut it. He's definitely good. He's just not start me every night good. We'll just put it that way. So
okay.
There's a lot to this team that needs some work done. I do believe they have a lot of draft picks. Do they not?
Well, they got that one. They got like a second from the Knicks, and then Indy sent them 2, I think. Indy sent them 3 for Siakam. So 2 this year, and then 1 in 2026. So they got 3 picks for Siakam. So that kind of made up for the kind of lackluster haul that they got back for OG. I mean, RJ is a nice piece, but long term, is he really who you want to go with?
I think he is because he's a Toronto native.
He is from Canada, from Toronto.
Yeah, so I think that's why you think he is good for the future there. He obviously will have more to play for playing from home every other night.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's one of the reasons why you keep him. I think he's just a worthy candidate to stay. You can probably get him for a nice hometown discount, definitely. Another one to look for is okay, we got Emmanuel Quickly. Do we need Dennis Schroeder? Would it be better to get someone who's, I'm not saying begging, but someone who's desperate for a point guard? Someone might pop up.
Yeah, that's a good question. Good thought. They still have some moves that they can make by next week, so we'll see. Moving on, I believe we have the Nets. So the Nets made the playoffs last year. Most of that work was, because of KD and Kyrie, and a little bit of Harden. But now the Nets, who they got? Ben Simmons came back briefly, but I think he's out tonight. They got Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, Nicky Claxton. They got some dogs over there, but they're not doing as good as last year. How do we feel about the Nets?
The Nets are the team that. Okay, so the problem with the Nets is the reason they made the playoffs last year is because they had talent before it all left.
Mm-hmm.
And they made the playoffs because of that talent. They decided to carry the same talent in there, hoping that they could have that same talent and take them to the playoffs again, and then maybe have a bridge year. But the problem with that is that team wasn't built to do regular season and the postseason. The biggest thing with the Brooklyn Nets is, sorry, Mikal Bridges, but there's no centerpiece there. There's no guaranteed all-star, get me a basket, I need a basket guy. No, has Mikal Bridges stepped up to the plate and played it pretty well? Yes, obviously has. But when he was on the Suns, he wasn't the first option. He wasn't the second option. At times, he was the third option. So I also do believe that having him in this role here, you kind of take away from his defensive production. because his offense, he has to produce on offense a little bit more. And you can't tell me that you look at this team and you think that there's outstanding piece at multiple points in this team. There's just not. I mean, Royce O'Neal has never been the guy. Dorian Finney-Smith has never been the guy. Dorian Finney-Smith was like number 4 option with the Mavericks. Nick Claxton, okay, but Nick Claxton can't go against big bigs. He can't handle big bigs. He's not big enough to handle those other big guys. They'll push him around down there. Spencer Dinwiddie. I mean, yeah, Spencer Dinwiddie at this point has been I can say I'm a big fan of Spencer Dinwiddie, but he's been a journeyman for most of his career. So you built a team of 2s and 3s, maybe 4s from other teams and put them all together as one, and there's just not the guy. So there's point in games when you just need a guy to make a play, and they just don't have that a guy.
You're right. I compare this team to just a team full of like glorified role players, and I know Mikal Bridges he is the best player. He's a borderline all-star.
Mm-hmm.
Ben Simmons was a previous all-star. He's kind of fallen off. We're not going to have the same expectations for Ben Simmons after what happened in that series versus Atlanta. He's just not the same guy. So in reality, you have one guy who could be an all-star. But other than that, these guys are just role players, and they fit well together. But like you said, they don't have a go-to guy. They don't even have a number 2 go-to guy. So it's just a bunch of 3s and 4s, role players. So we'll see if they make any moves. If I was them, I definitely would, because you got to get you a go-getter, and they're lacking that. Moving into the play-in, though, we got the Hawks. The Hawks struggled a little bit. They've kind of, they, like you see right here, they won 2 in a row, beat the Lakers, and they beat somebody. We'll see. They beat the Lakers and they beat the Sun. Oh no, they play Suns in a couple of days, but they beat the Raptors. Oh yeah. I watched that game. The Hawks. It came out that pretty much everyone on that team is going to be on the trading block except for himself, Ice Trae. So this means DeJounte Murray, DeAndre Hunter, Bogdanovic, Capella.
Even that young rookie who's playing out of his mind.
Jalen Johnson I think he's untouchable for the most part, but I mean, at this point, Ice Trae is probably the only for sure guy. How do we feel about the Hawks? For me, I think it's time to blow up. I think they're kind of like the Nets. They have one go-to guy and a bunch of role players.
I think the Nets would make the play-in over the Hawks as the season progresses and it gets closer down to the wire. And honestly, I would tell both those teams they need to blow up. If you're the Hawks, you're just too small. And then the big guys you have in there are too slow. Clint Capella is just a little too slow for the speed that you have around him. I mean, that's the main problem.
Yeah.
I've never thought DeAndre Hunter is all that good. And no offense, but you can kind of tell the difference between Jalen Johnson and John Collins. Yeah, John Collins is a lot better than Jalen Johnson. But you let John Collins go, which, fair, you probably should have. But at that same rate, you kind of have to let the rest of this team go. I know Bogdanovic, you can send him to a team. They're not going to pay high value for him, but you might be able to get some young talent for him. Say a team like, I don't know, like a Denver. I don't know if they want to mess with any of their little lineup, but, Watson or was it Braun? They might be like, question marks. They don't get a lot of playing time, but they seem really good. And the Nuggets might think to themselves, I kind of just need a basket getter on the second unit. I need someone out there to just come out there and get me a basket. When I got Jamal Murray and I got Jokic sitting on the bench for their 5 minutes of rest time, I need at least 7 to 8 points, and I need a guy to go out there and get me 7 to 8 points right now, really quick. And, Bogdanovic can shoot a 3 and then make a layup within 2 minutes. That's 5 of your 7 to 8 points that you're looking for in that 5 minutes. So Bogdanovic I think is a guy you can get rid of while also bringing in younger talent, because you're not going to get paid for him, okay? That's just the problem. No one's really going to pay you for him. But you can get someone who's younger who might have upside. Or that player also has trade potential upside if they do really well. But you're like, oh, yeah, Christian Braun, he's really good. But he's probably not solidified in my top 5. So I'm probably just going to move on from him after the season, but I can trade him. So just trade pieces down the road. But yeah, I think Bogdanovich is the one guy I think has a lot of hidden value. He'll go to a team that they need a basket getter, but is definitely going to be fighting in the second unit. Bogdanovich is not going anywhere going in the first unit. DeAndre Hunter has been kind of disappointing most of his career. And honestly, Clint Capella, you might keep him just because no one might not make a move on him. That just might be the whole problem with that one. No one might make a move on him. And did DeJounte Murray, everywhere I turn, they're trying to trade for him, and they're trying to trade for him, and they want him, and they want him. I'm not even going to touch that with a 10-foot pole because you don't even know where he's going. You don't know what's happening with him. You pretty much know he's going. You just don't know where.
Yeah, and I think the big problem there is they're asking a little bit too much. They kind of want the same return that they paid up for him.
But he's like a car, Once you drive that car out the lot, you ain't getting the same thing you got for that car.
Yeah. Not to say he fell off or anything. It's just as it is, it's just teams aren't willing to pony up 2 picks, because they know you want to get rid of them. They're not going to pay that freight, so we'll see how the Hawks move. Next up, the Bulls. Also another team that was in the play-in last season. Right now they're doing okay, 22-26. Levine is probably the top of their trade rumors, followed by DeMar. So they're kind of testing the water, seeing what they can get. How do you feel about the Bulls? Should they make a move, or should they stay pat?
See, that one's a hard ask. I kind of thought the Bulls had a little bit of a hard start to the season. I don't know what their ranking is in terms of strength of schedule, but it kind of had to be kind of hard. It couldn't have been one of the easiest ones like the Bucks had, but in my opinion, I think one of the main guys who needs to go is Vucevic. I just don't think he fits, and I feel like it's just a wasted talent, if you will. He's just wasted there. I can literally see the rest of the lineup playing well around him. It's just that he just doesn't work within it, and there's nothing wrong with that. But this is one of those teams where they just haven't learned from history, because history has said that this team doesn't work. It just doesn't work on paper. Yet every offseason, you don't really do anything to change it. But we just believe it's automatically going to get better and it's going to change, and it's just not, Because one of the focal points that you had on the team when you were kind of good, we may never see play basketball again because there's always some complication coming up with that knee. So
yeah. I mean, it's hard to see Lonzo not play basketball, but when he was playing with them, they were. I mean, you could see it. They were the number 1 team in the East for a good stretch about 2 years ago. So it's hard to see him not play basketball. Hopefully, he comes back. But as for right now, yeah, they got to decide, man. I think when I look at it, I think you're right. Big Vu, he just always, to me, felt out of place as the third option. And that's mainly because of the spacing, I feel like. You're asking a guy who he can shoot threes, but it's not his forte. So he's kind of usually sitting by the 3-point line. And then occasionally he posts up. So
I mean, you got to look at it like Levine, Caruso, DeRozan. They all like to drive the paint, so he can't hang out in the paint where he likes to be because they're coming in. So he's got to move out.
Yeah, so that's really killing his potential. And he's just not putting up the numbers he should be. He should easily be an 18-10 guy, 18-12 guy, but he just fluctuates too much. I know this because I don't bet on him anymore because he's kind of on my ban list, but I used to bet on him all the time. And this man, he'll go through a stretch of getting 18-10, and then the next 5 games, he'll get you 10-6. So he's just too inconsistent for me, too inconsistent for the team. But I like Kobe White making a big step this year, filling in for the starting point guard, taking over for Ayo Dosunmu, who last year kind of popped off, but this year kind of cooled down a little bit. Crusoe's been good, but yeah, for me, they got to kind of blow this thing up. Maybe not totally blow up, but maybe trade one guy and just reassess the situation.
See, my problem with the team is it seems like they do a little better when Levine is gone. So maybe that might be your key. It might be a little bit of a sign that you don't need to blow up the whole entire thing. Just maybe one guy needs to go and pieces will fall into place.
Yep, that's what I think. Moving on, we got the Magic at 8. The Magic were out of the playoffs last year, so they didn't play in the play-in or the playoffs. Right now, they're sitting at 8. At one point, I think in the beginning, they were like top 3 or 4. Slowly have come back down to earth. They're kind of like last year's Jazz, where they had a hot start and kind of just came back to earth. Most of that's due to injuries, though. They've had a lot of injuries. Banchero's been in and out the lineup. I think even Wendell Carter's been in and out too. So, how do you feel about the Magic? Are they gonna hang around the play-in spots, or are they gonna continue to fall? You think?
I think the Magic are gonna go back up. I don't think the Magic go further down. I think the Magic only go up. I think the problem with the Magic is you got to figure out what you want to do at the. I want to say at the small forward and at the center position. I think Jalen Suggs is playing all right. Markelle Fultz, you know what you're going to get at this point. Cole Anthony's probably your better weapon for point scoring. Markelle Fultz is better than the first team because you need your second team to have some kind of strength. I think the main problem with the team is I looked up on if you go on Yahoo Sports and you look at the stats and everything. Paulo Banchero literally leads the team in like 3 different categories. I'm pretty sure Paulo gets a lot of assists a game. He gets almost as many assists as a point guard does. Obviously, there must not be a lot of ball movement going around with the team. I can't tell you that I'm one of those guys that watches a lot of the Magic. I don't. But I can tell you, I don't know, Banchero is also on my ban list. There's been too many times where I give him a shout. I see what he can do, and he lets me down consistently.
Yeah, he's on mine too.
He's supposed to be like, an automatic 20 points a game, and sometimes this man scores 12, and you're just like, excuse me, sir? Anywho,
yep.
See, the problem with the team, though, is no one's going to give you money for Franz Wagner. And, you're not moving off that. That's just something that you're going to have to eventually give up. It's going to end the contract, and you're going to cut, So going into this season,
Franz Wagner has played well this season. He's definitely took a step up.
Yeah, but who wants to pay for it is the real question. Do you want to pay for it? Do the Heat want him? Do the Heat want him?
No, the Heat are backlogged at small forward. We're okay. So, yeah, I don't watch a lot of Magic either, but I do know that, I think they'll hang in and play in. I don't think they're going to fall out. Will they move up? I don't really think so, because the East just got a lot tougher. Moving on, we got the Heatles. Same record as the Magic. They're playing tonight versus the Kings. They've lost 7 straight. I think they're doing slightly better than last season in terms of points per game. Defense has kind of fallen off. I will say that usually during this time, the past 4 seasons or so, the Heat have always had a slump around middle of January, going into February. Most of it's just because Jimmy is just usually out this time, so the optics look really bad, but this is just a usual slump, which is not good at all. We shouldn't be having the same slump at the same time every single season. It's just not a good look. What do I think, though? I think that there needs to be I don't necessarily think there needs to be a major move. I think we have to wait till the offseason because we just got Scary Terry. He hasn't really acclimated fully, and Spo's still tinkering with stuff. And he's kind of slow when it comes to like integrating new talent. He's just really slow, always has been. So it's not his forte. So we'll see how this current version of the roster looks. My guess is the Heat probably maybe climb to that 5-6 spot. I was thinking after the trade they would be top 4, but this team just has too many flaws, too many weaknesses. Honestly, we're not talented enough to beat the Sixers probably this year or the Celtics. That's a definite jump this year. I didn't think we were going to beat either team. Not after some of the upgrades that they have done. Now it's looking like the Knicks is probably a team that we can't beat. How do you feel about the Heat, Lawrence?
I think it's weird that you have Highsmith in the starting lineup. I don't watch enough of the Heat either, but what's the reasoning Caleb Martin doesn't start over him? Or
well, it's more so Caleb fits better on the second unit. We need size. Haywood is a little bit bigger than Caleb. But
what about
biggest
Jovic?
Thing, yeah, I was just about to say that my biggest thing is Jovic is just not playing enough. Spo just has like this thing with Jovic where he plays them and then he doesn't play them. I don't know what his deal is. Jovic, he's young. I think he's in his second season. He's a young kid, but he's only going to get better by playing. And if you don't play him, he's just not going to get better. So if you just have him on the bench and he's not in the G League, which at this point, the guy, he's too good for the G League. He's just balling. He balled out last summer in FIBA play, and we all saw it. And then this season, he's just in and out the lineup. It's just throwing off his mojo. It's throwing off his rhythm. That's why I'm saying Spo is just really bad at integrating new talent. He always has been. It's definitely his weak spot.
Yeah.
So we'll see. Miami definitely could be better, but right now they're just in a big slump. Moving on, though, we got the Pacers. They made a big move a couple weeks ago. They got Siakam, traded some future draft capital, but I think the return has really helped them. They're better defensively. In spurts, I'm not going to say all around. In spurts, they are better defensively. The offense is still there because Siakam can score 20 on any given night, get you about 6 to 8 rebounds. He had a triple-double, I think, last week. So he's a good hit. Halliburton came back last night. He's on a minute restriction, though, so he probably will be limited for the next week or so while they try to ramp him up. How do you feel about the Pacers? I think we both had them being in the play-in, but we didn't expect them to be this good, I feel like.
I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the Pacers yet. Problem with the Pacers, they don't play any defense. The good thing about the moves they made is maybe they can play a little better defense. I don't know. I'm gonna hold off on the Pacers right now because I haven't seen how the new team will play around Siakam. I really am interested to see how this new team will evolve and play with Siakam.
Mm-hmm.
One of the first times I went for it to bet on this team, I guess I didn't get the memo on Halliburton's play restriction. He never gets big spotlight games. He never gets to play on national TV. So the first time he's playing on one of the only times he's playing on national TV, he's on a minutes restriction. I did not see that coming because I thought they were going to play. I thought they were going to let him play because he was going hard, and so I'm a little bummed by that. I think Indiana is one of those teams that they're going to scare. They're going to scare a team, and I think whatever team they get first round, they're taking them to a game 6. And it's going to be like one of those sketchy game 6s in which it could go one more game, but they just blow it in the end because of their lack of defense.
Yeah, their lack of defense is what's going to get them in the end. Next up, we got the Sixers. They're in 5th. They were hanging in that 3rd spot for a while, most of this month. Maxi's been out. Embiid was out, came back last night versus the Warriors, and then re-injured his knee. So no timetable on how long he's going to be out. How do you feel about the Sixers? Do they need to make a move? I know a lot of people have been thinking they need to get maybe not a 3rd star, but get someone to help take the scoring load off of Joel and Maxi. Because one guy, I think Maxi's averaging 27 or 28. Joel's averaging 35, 36. They kind of need a 3rd guy maybe, but who knows? What do you think?
I think you get rid of Tobias Harris and see what you can get for him. I think that's the only way to go. I think you got to figure out what is Tobias Harris's value. Mm-hmm. Who may you package with Tobias Harris to make some value up? Mm-hmm. As at this point in time, it's to me, it's very clear that Tobias Harris just ain't cutting it. Because if you look across the board, this team consistently is not making it to where you want it to make it, and it's between him and Embiid at this point that have always been on those lineups and rosters. And Embiid is an MVP, so you don't move off an MVP. So Tobias Harris, you have a lot of money on that contract. Maybe there's a sorry sucker out there that will, they're gonna have to combine something to get you something. So maybe you get Tobias Harris in a small contract, like I don't know, Mo Bamba, because you don't play him at all, or Daniel House Jr. And you package them together and see where that money can get you, and hopefully you can get you like two smaller guys. I don't know, maybe more speed. I don't know who you're going to get. Obviously, I'm not paying that much attention, but you got to move off Tobias. It's just time. There's like we always believe, there's no point in beating a dead horse. He was part of the trust the process era, and this process is still not working completely. So he is part of that process that's not working.
Yeah, he's on an expiring deal. They have a couple guys on expiring contracts, so they could toss them all together and get someone else. But at the same time, they also got to look at it like this: like they could have the cap space in the offseason to go out and sign somebody. But we've seen with the recent trend that guys aren't really signing in the offseason. They are, but the guys that move the needle really aren't signing in the offseason. So they definitely have to make a tough choice in about a week if they want to, which way they want to go. Up next, I think we got the Cavs, 28-16. They had a lot of injuries too. Garland and Mobley have both been out for a while. I think they both are back tonight. So they got two of their good players back. It's mostly been Donovan Mitchell and company keeping the ship afloat. How do you feel about the Cavs? I knew they were going to kind of be back in the same position. The question for me going into the season was, would they go through a bad enough stretch that they would think about moving Mitchell a little bit prematurely?
I mean, at this point, you fight the battle that you're in right now. This is your team that you're going to take into the playoffs. I don't think there is much to add to it. I don't think there's much to move away from it. Since this team has come back to full health, Evan Mobley just got back. But in reality, this team is finally back to full health, and I think this is the time period that you just try to ride the wave of keeping everyone at full health. Maybe not saying minute restrict people, but if someone's dealing a little something, you just sit them out a little longer, or you let them ride the bench a little longer, or whatever it may be that you have to do. But I do believe this is a top 4 team in the East. And all it takes is a little bit of magic and a little bit of sprinkle of the injury bug to let you make a run in the postseason. So if you hang around the 4th seed, you get that 5th seed team. As of right now, I mean, the top 4 teams in the East are looking a little bit more dangerous than the bottom rest of the league. The 76ers are kind of just in that limbo of, if this team doesn't stay healthy, this team is not going to be good the rest of the season. So if you're the Cavs, I think you shoot for that 3rd seed. Honestly, if you're the Cavs, I think you shoot for the seed in which the Pacers are not. So you don't want to go against the Pacers. I think the Cavaliers do not want to see the Pacers. Because the one thing the Pacers do is they let people just drive that paint and score at will inside the post sometimes. And honestly, I'm sorry, Cleveland, but the 2 big men you have there don't strike me as dominating paint half the time. They're more of defenders. They have not actively shown that they love to go score 30 a game.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. So we'll see how that playoff seeding looks in a couple months. Moving on, I think we have the Knicks at 3. The Knicks have surged as of late. They're on an 8-game win streak. Ever since OG joined their team from that trade a couple of weeks ago, they have taken off. They are missing Randall right now. I think he hurt his shoulder against the Heat on I think it was this past Saturday or Sunday. So he's gonna be out for a few weeks. But Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, the Villanova boys are kind of just sailing the ship right now. How do we feel about the Knicks? Can they keep up all this winning, or are they going to hit a plateau soon? What do you think?
I think this is their plateau. I think the 3 seed is the plateau for them. I don't see how they can get past the 3 seed. I just feel like the 3 seed for them is, I'm not going to say it is the penultimate, but do we really believe that they can get around the Bucks? Do we really believe that they can get around the Celtics? No and no. I think maybe you have a better chance of getting around the Bucks than the Celtics, obviously, because the Celtics are apparently insane at home. Only lost 2 games all year. We'll talk about it in a little bit. But, I mean, that's the big kicker for the Knicks is what the team that you have right now, you're not knocking those guys off their podium. It's the unfortunate fact. But you're sitting in a very perfect spot to make a lot of noise. I think the biggest thing for them is you got to hope that Julius Randle stays healthy. He's out right now, but you got to make sure he stays healthy. And honestly, if you're the Knicks, maybe you look at getting not a third guy. You look at getting another guy to come off the bench. In terms of scoring, in terms of my main guys are off the field. I need some more points. There's just a lack thereof when that first unit gets off. The second unit does a really good job of playing defense. I mean, that's just what it is. They play a good job at playing defense. They know what they want to do. They want to hold you until the starting unit comes back in. That's okay. Do I think it's a way to, win the season? No. I think once you get into the playoffs, you're going to need some guy to come off the bench and strike a little spark. So when your starters get back in there, they're not going, God, man, got to pull it from being down 10 now. I need to be within 5, 4.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. They definitely could use a spark off the bench. Their spark, Emmanuel Quickly, is now on the Raptors, part of that trade to land OG. But yeah, I think you're right. This is their plateau. I don't feel like there's any way they're going to catch the Bucks. Definitely not the Celtics. I think the only way they're going to catch the Bucks is if they kept Adrian Griffin, because we'll talk about it in literally a couple seconds. But Bucks had the easiest schedule in the first half. Back half, their schedule is way harder. So there was a chance that the Bucks were going to take a little slide. So I think that was the only way the Knicks were going to kind of catch up. But I think with Doc Rivers, they'll be just fine. And that's an easy segue into the number 2 Bucks. 30-13 last week, but they got rid of Adrian Griffin, immediately hired Doc Rivers literally the next day. They lost their first game with Doc. I think that was literally last night against the Nuggets. They lost. It was a good game. You can already tell the defense is a lot better. But it's his first game. I'm not going to give Doc too much slack, but there is high expectations. This roster is built to win now. Whether they will win now is another question. So Lawrence, I'll ask you this. Are they a championship roster, do you think? And how do you think the rest of the season is going to go?
I'll be quite honest. I don't think that they're a championship roster. I kind of know they are, because they've kind of been there, done that. They kind of have that. They kind of have guys on the bench who have been in those championship moments that I'm not really afraid of them, withering away in the moment. I think my main piece is there has to be a more. I don't know what's the best way to put it. There's got to be you kind of have to let Dame be Dame kind of thing. I think that's the one thing that's missing in this team is like that Damian Lillard factor. I mean, since we've seen him join the Bucks, has he ever gotten more than 40 points in a game? No. But did he used to do that all the time with Portland? Yeah. But you can also say, well, he's got better guys around him. Yeah, that's also true. But like, I'm not gonna. Giannis sometimes just is too ball dominant, and he does. He'll get you 32, but he does a shooting of like 28% or 30%. So like, yeah, it's a good 32, but there was a lot of better shots that other people could have had. I just feel like maybe Doc will be able to corral it, but I think Giannis got to pass the ball a little more because we see it when teams really want to. They'll double team him, and he'll still try to drive in that paint. When you're getting double teamed, that means someone's open. That means someone's wide the heck open. And sorry, not sorry, but if I got Malik Beasley and I got Brook Lopez sitting wide open at the 3-point line, I want both of them to shoot it. If they're completely butt naked and you got two guys on you, one of those two, because you're not going to leave Damian Lillard, you're not going to leave Chris Middleton alone. But if Malik Beasley and Brook Lopez are butt naked, I want the ball in their hands because guess what? They're butt naked.
I agree.
Give it to the guy who's wide open.
I agree. His assists are up this year, but I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, you gotta let Dame be Dame, and I know he has better talent in Milwaukee, but we need the Dame that's scoring 30 points a game. We need the Dame that's out there just taking games over. I'm not saying he hasn't this season, but it's been few and far between. For example, the other night against the Nuggets, it just seemed like he was deferring too much. It was kind of just like, here, Giannis, like, you versus Jokic, like, okay, I'm just gonna be shotgun today, When in reality, I think Dame should be the guy in the driver's seat driving the bus, because he's a veteran guy. Even though he hasn't won before, Giannis has won a championship, but Dame, top 75 player, one of the best point guards to ever do it, man. I think you just got to be that guy. Just go average 30. Let Giannis, he'll average 30 as well, and then just let all the pieces fall in the line. But Doc Rivers is probably the guy for the job. He's had tons of experience with multiple stars from the Celtics days with KG, Rondo, Ray, and Paul Pierce. Then the Clippers run to the last couple of years with Embiid and Ben Simmons and Harden managing that fiasco. So I think in that aspect, Doc is the right guy. But as far as championship roster, I think they're like a piece or two away. Not saying they can't get there, but I think they're a piece or two away, and they don't have the assets really to make any changes. So I think they're probably a year away. I think next year will be their year. But let's end this thing with the Celtics at number one, the last team in the East, number one team in the East, last team we have to cover. Celtics this year are just, I mean, what can we say? They lost 2 games at home to the Clippers and who else they lose to at home? It's like Clippers and Nuggets, right? Maybe.
Was it the Pacers? Is that not? No, the Pacers were at home. I don't remember.
I don't remember.
Because that's the Bucks who are 0-4 against the Pacers.
They're really good. They're really deep. If we look at their roster, I mean, the guys on the bench, like they got Pritchard, Hauser, Horford's off the bench now. Cornette's not a bad backup center. I mean, just overall, they're just playing well. Their defense is up from last year. Last year, that was kind of their weakness. Their defense just wasn't as well as it should be. You think that
wasn't because what you want it to be, yeah.
Yeah, because of Time Lord, you thought that, you got Time Lord, you got Al Horford. You think it would be a good defensive duo, but just not really. Kristaps, Porzingis really stepped up their defensive intensity, blocking shots, protecting the rim. And then you got Drew Holiday, all NBA defender. So is Derek White. So, I mean, they're just stacked, man. How do we feel about the Celtics? Are they going to go back to the NBA Finals?
Yes, I think they do. I think there's only a few teams that can take this team down. I think the one problem with the Celtics is where they're sitting right now in the play, or not the playoffs, but where they are sitting right now in the playoffs in the regular season. They're going to be the number 1 seed. So that means they always get 4 games minimum at home in any series. So do I think that a team can go into Boston and win one? Yeah, probably. But do I think Boston can go into someone else in the East Arena and win one? I do believe. So at the end of the day, they will always have that penultimate advantage of being at home. And the fact that, you got that raunchy Celtics crowd in a big situation like the playoffs. They've been in those situations for centuries at this point now. So they're not scared of the moment when it comes. They know what they need to say. Winky face, winky face. They know what they need to say to get in the heads of some other players around the league during those moments. This is all just wrapping up to me saying the Celtics, just with that home field advantage, I think the biggest key is, like, you want to beat the Celtics, you got to go in one seed higher. That's just the way you're going to have to play it. Because if you think you're going to beat them more than twice at home, they've only lost twice. I don't know, were they 22-20 or 22-2, 20-2? Like, dude, no one's beaten them all season at home. Only two people have done it. Only two teams. You're not going to win two of them at home. So you're going to have to go perfect from home and 22-2. You're literally going to have to play perfect at home, and you're going to have to take one from Boston on the road. Do I think the Knicks can do it? No, I don't think the Knicks have enough people. Do I think the Cavaliers can do it? Yeah, but then I watched the Cavaliers absolutely collapse against the Knicks last year, and I don't think the Knicks can do it. Do I think the Pacers can do it? No, the Pacers don't have any defense. Do I think the 76ers can do it? No, I don't think they can. I think Embiid can help them, but I mean, we don't even know if the 76ers are going to be a top 6 team at this point because, I mean, they're missing half their lineup. So that only leaves our saving grace at this point, the Milwaukee Bucks. And can they do it? I mean, we've seen them do it in the past, but the Celtics have a lot more unity and chemistry than the Bucks do. And hopefully Doc Rivers takes them on a unified retreat one weekend. Get the boys together, get them hammered and drunk, and get them to talk about their feelings, and then they come a full attached, complete unit. But until that happens, I mean, we're going to be sitting here going, yeah, I think the Celtics are just a little bit untouchable. I think that's a little bit of a touch one to poke with the bear.
Yeah, as we're speaking right now, I think the Celtics are the best. They're definitely the best team in the East. I think they're the best team in the NBA. They have it all, man. So I think it's tough to see definitely anyone in the East beating them. But outside the East, it'd be very hard pressed to find a team that can challenge them. It's probably only the Nuggets at this point because they're the defending champs. So they got that championship pedigree. So that's what I think about that. But yeah, that's the Eastern Conference midseason recap. All 15 teams in the East we just covered. And yeah, so we're running out of time, folks. I don't know if we'll be able to get to rapid fire. Lawrence, is there anything you want to go over before we head on out?
I was just thinking, if you guys want, we'll make like an Instagram page or something where we post some pics every day. Don't get mad at us if we lose, but we'll share our thoughts with you every day. So maybe you guys can see if we're more clowns than what you think, or you can ride with us. You can fade us. I'm okay with being faded because if you fade me and then I win, then you just look like you got a thumb in your mouth. You let us know if that's something you're interested in. That might be something that I start doing. I'll hit up Markel every day, be like, hey, you got a lock? You got some locks? Because I've been doing this thing every day where I make a card at work. I spend periodic time at work, just jotting down, looking at stats, looking at money lines, looking at public bets, who's got the money on them, who doesn't got the money on them. I always try to avoid too much money, too much public play, especially for college basketball. I swear to you, you bet on anything that has over 90% of the money on one side, and yes, that happens a lot. But you saw yesterday, UNC lost to Georgia Tech. UNC had 97% of the money. If you watch any of that game, there were some weird calls made. on both sides. So I'm not going to say the refs absolutely down pat were cheating for the Georgia Tech. No, I will not, because Georgia Tech got some questionable calls. UNC got some questionable calls. I think it was just one of those games where it was questionable calls all over. But the house won their money back. That's the biggest key, is Vegas won their money. So whenever you see a team like that, even if you like it, even if you feel it, the passion, I don't know, maybe put a little bit on it, sprinkle half your unit, but don't put the whole thing, because this is how you get beat.
Yeah, I'm down. I think that's something we definitely should do. Make it like a daily thing or a couple times a week. But yeah, we'll give you guys more information once that gets, finalized and whatnot. I don't have anything from my end. I'll be watching the Heatles versus the Wizards on Friday. So if you guys are local, maybe you'll see me there. But Heat are currently up by 3. They were up by like double digits literally like a minute ago, but that is no longer the case.
Spooky.
So we'll see if they make this 8-game losing streak. Probably so. Anyways, let's head on out. It's the MTL Sports Podcast, episode 71, guys. Thank you guys for watching, listening on Spotify, all that good stuff. We are out. Peace.